substitute for intellectual stimulation and confirm that the way we are is the only way to be.
That's right. And by the way, not just the way we are, but the way we were, or the way we are even when we're 5 years old, even when we're 7 years old. But you see, what is really fighting here? We talked about a cultural war or a cultural civil war here in America. The two sides are that man is born somewhere between, let's call it the animal instinct,
right,
and let's call the other side God or intellect. Republicans believe that the animal instinct is suspect, that that our sexual urges need to be controlled, that we shouldn't eat like a pig, that there are just natural instincts that we become better and better people the more we can control them, not give them up. I love sex and whatnot. Not give it up, but control it. Do it at the right and appropriate times.
Right.
Make war, not love, sometimes when war is necessary.
Right.
So the conservative mind on the one side believes that our animal instincts are suspect and need to be controlled by our intellect. The Democrat believes that it's the intellect that is suspect. The intellect is bigoted and prejudiced. The intellect brings about institutions that cause fighting and war. After all, children don't have wars. And so they believe that while the intellect is suspect, it needs to be controlled by our animal instincts. So you and I would argue if it is good, do it. They argue if it feels good, do it. And that's what an animal does. An animal stops and licks himself because it feels good.
But talk a minute, and it's Evan Sayet here on the line with me. Talk a minute, if you would, and expound upon Bloom's point about the reference, about how when everything is relative and you can't compare it to anything else, then it is what it is today.
Well, here's just to extend the point that because I was trying to be relevant a moment ago.
No, you were relevant. You were relevant, but
when intellect is suspect, what happens is that anything that survives the test of time. Why does something survive the test of time? Why does Judaism? Why does Christianity succeed over long periods of time? And that's because intellectually, we have made the choice that this is a better way to create a society through these institutions of the mind.
Right.
And thus, whatever succeeds the test of time simply by itself is proof positive that it's bad because it's of the intellect. And Democrats truly believe the intellect is bad. Therefore, marriage, heterosexual marriage, has succeeded through the test of time. So what do they push? It's opposite. See, where Bloom fell short, and believe me, I say that with all modesty, because I would have I would have no talk whatsoever if I hadn't come across Bloom's book.
Right.
But where he falls short is the lack of alternatives doesn't just leave the Democrat, the modern liberal, to be utterly indiscriminate. He actually then sides with all that is evil, failed, and wrong. He has to advance that which has failed, champion that which has failed. Because if nothing is better than anything else, then how do you explain the success of heterosexual marriage?
Right.
It must be bigotry, because it's not better. When you're indiscriminate, nothing is better than anything else. And so they will push that which has failed. This is why you find the Democrat on the side of the Palestinians, and you find the Republican on the side of the Israelis.
Well, and let's just narrow this down to the focus of music here. Here's Bloom again, and I know you're familiar with this passage. This is the significance of rock music. I do not suggest that it has any high intellectual sources, but it has risen to its current heights in the education of the young on the ashes of classical music, and in an atmosphere in which there is no intellectual resistance to attempts to tap the rawest passions, which is what you were talking about there. Let's tap into the animal. Let's say that the animal is right, and the sentient reason being that has volunteered to be governed at some level by a higher authority is wrong. And I think that's how you sum all this up.
Right, and that's exactly the point that I was making a moment ago. That because nothing is better than anything else, when people argue for the better, such as classical music, and then you take ear training and at Juilliard and whatnot, and what you find then is in Hollywood, ultimately, not only will they adore rock and roll, but then when it's time to vote for the best song of the year, they will pick "It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp," a tuneless rap song with you can't call them a musical group, but whoever was behind it, with no classical training, no training in music whatsoever. It's just literally just guttural shouts, and it is the most base and basic and animal of all of the music that you can imagine. So therefore, what is actually the worst becomes to the Democrat the best.
Hey, I want to read you one more passage, Evan, and this is gonna you'll like this. Who said this, Evan Sayet? Quote, "I'm frustrated by what I hear in popular music. Maybe it's not meant for me. Personally, I am way too bright for a lot of the hip-hop lyrics to affect. I am much too smart to think that jewelry or how cool I am is really going to change much about my personality. If you're dumb enough that it entertains you, have a great time, but I am seeking more than that." Who said that?
Oh, gee whiz, you got to help me. I don't know.
It was a trick question.
Was it me?
Hang wait. Tom Petty.